Whatever your reason for stopping, welcome to Mayberry.
Mayberry? We thought this was Elm City.
In 1963, a prank on the set of The Andy Griffith Show went horribly wrong. Cast members barged into Andy Griffith's hotel room only to catch him in bed with a co-star. CBS executives panicked, sponsors threatened to pull millions in advertising, and secret meetings were held to decide the show's fate. America's favorite small-town sheriff was at the center of a scandal that almost ended it all. But to understand how much was at stake, we need to go back to the show's origins. Veteran producer Sheldon Leonard had an eye for talent. In the 1950s, he watched Andy Griffith in No Time for Sergeants on Broadway and saw something special, a natural charm and humor that could carry a television show. That idea led to The Andy Griffith Show, which Leonard later called one of the most important decisions of his career. Before CBS would greenlight the series, they needed proof Griffith could lead a show. On February 15, 1960, an episode of The Danny Thomas Show titled Danny Meets Andy Griffith introduced Sheriff Andy Taylor. In the episode, Danny Williams gets pulled over in Mayberry, meeting a sheriff who's also the justice of the peace and the town's newspaper editor. The character was more exaggerated than what audiences later knew, but the backdoor pilot was a smart move. It allowed CBS to test the waters without extra costs. The reaction was exactly what they hoped for. CBS and key sponsor General Foods immediately committed to the series, ensuring funding and support. On October 3, 1960, The Andy Griffith Show premiered, bringing the fictional town of Mayberry to life. One of the smartest decisions Leonard and Griffith made was the show's setting. Mayberry wasn't just a small town, it was timeless. Though the show aired in the 1960s, it felt like the 1930s or 1940s. There were no references to Cold War tensions or civil rights movements. It was an intentional escape for audiences, offering a world untouched by modern troubles. At first, Griffith leaned heavily into exaggerated Southern charm, playing Andy Taylor with big smiles and comedic energy. But by the second season, he adjusted his performance, becoming the steady, level-headed center of Mayberry. Instead of being the source of humor, he let the supporting cast shine, especially Don Knotts as the bumbling yet lovable Barney Fife. Barney Fife wasn't even meant to be a recurring character. Originally cast for a one-time role, Don Knotts' chemistry with Griffith was undeniable. Producer Sheldon Leonard quickly offered him a contract, and that decision transformed the show's dynamic. Another key casting choice was Frances Bavier as Aunt Bee. Griffith initially opposed her casting, but Leonard insisted. Behind the scenes, Bavier's serious professionalism clashed with Griffith's easygoing nature, but on screen, she became an essential part of Mayberry. Finding Opie Taylor was another challenge. Over 500 child actors auditioned, but 6-year-old Ron Howard stood out. Leonard had seen him in General Electric Theater and was struck by his natural charm. At first, Opie was written as a wisecracking TV kid, but Howard's father suggested he play the role with sincerity instead. The result? One of the most touching father-son relationships on television. Howard spent 8 years growing up on set. By 15, he was already experimenting with Super 8 cameras, paving the way for his future as an Oscar-winning filmmaker. To this day, he credits The Andy Griffith Show as one of the biggest influences on his storytelling career. Despite the behind-the-scenes drama, The Andy Griffith Show became one of the most beloved series in television history. Its heartwarming stories, unforgettable characters, and timeless setting cemented its place in pop culture. And while the scandal threatened to destroy it all, the show endured, proving that sometimes small-town charm can survive even the biggest Hollywood secrets. When the Andy Griffith Show premiered on October 3, 1960, it was an instant success. In its very first season, it became the #1 sitcom in America and ranked 4th overall in Nielsen ratings. Competing with TV giants like Gunsmoke and The Ed Sullivan Show, this was no small feat. What made the Andy Griffith Show special was its warmth and authenticity. It wasn't just funny, it felt real. Mayberry, the fictional North Carolina town, felt like home to millions. At the center was Sheriff Andy Taylor, played by Andy Griffith, a wise and patient lawman who kept order with common sense. His overzealous deputy, Barney Fife, Don Knotts, provided the laughs with his well-meaning but disastrous attempts at law enforcement. Their chemistry was perfect. Andy was calm and steady, while Barney was energetic and unpredictable. The show blended comedy with heartfelt moments. Sheriff Taylor wasn't just a lawman. He was a single father raising his son, Opie, Ron Howard, with the help of Aunt Bee, Frances Bavier. Every episode delivered laughter, but also life lessons about family, friendship, and doing the right thing. One of the most famous episodes, The Pickle Story, saw Andy and Barney struggling to avoid eating Aunt Bee's terrible homemade pickles. It was hilarious, but also touching. They didn't want to hurt her feelings, no matter how bad the pickles were. A major reason for the show's immediate success was CBS's smart scheduling. It aired on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m., right after the Danny Thomas Show, where Sheriff Andy Taylor had been introduced in a guest appearance. CBS knew viewers were already familiar with the character, so they placed the new show in a prime spot. The strategy worked, and ratings soared. Despite its wholesome image, the Andy Griffith Show had its share of off-screen tensions. Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee, was nothing like her warm character in real life. She was serious about acting and didn't appreciate the jokes and pranks on set. She often clashed with Griffith, feeling overlooked and frustrated that her character didn't get the same comedic opportunities as others. The tension lasted for years, but in 1989, Bavier, then battling cancer, called Griffith to apologize, admitting, "I'm sorry we didn't get along better. It was my fault." One of the biggest shakeups came in 1965 when Don Knotts left after season 5. Fans were shocked, but the reason was more complicated than just his desire for a film career. When the show began, Knotts signed a 5-year contract, assuming it wouldn't last beyond that. With that in mind, he signed a 5-film deal with Universal Studios. But when CBS unexpectedly renewed the Andy Griffith Show, Knotts had a difficult choice. He approached Griffith to renegotiate his contract, hoping for a stake in the show. But Griffith misunderstood and let him go. Without Barney Fife, Mayberry lost some of its original charm. CBS attempted to replace him with a new deputy, Warren Ferguson, Jack Burns, but the character didn't click with audiences. Warren was written out after just 11 episodes, and the producers never tried replacing Barney again. The failure proved one thing: Don Knotts was irreplaceable. Andy Griffith's on-screen romance with Helen Crump, Annetta Corsott, extended off-screen as well. Griffith, married at the time, reportedly fell deeply for Corsott, and even proposed despite still being with his wife. She refused, unwilling to be part of an affair. Their relationship became an open secret among the cast and crew. The Andy Griffith Show ran from 1960 to 1968, never leaving the top 10 in ratings. Even after Don Knotts' departure, it remained popular, finishing its final season as the #1 show in America, an achievement few series have matched. Despite Mayberry's charm, its lack of black residents was a flaw Griffith later regretted. Behind the scenes, tensions arose. Frances Bavier clashed with Griffith, and Don Knotts left after season 5. Cancelled despite high ratings, Mayberry RFD couldn't match its predecessor's impact. Yet, reruns, a 1986 reunion movie, and Mayberry Days keep its legacy alive. Over 60 years later, Mayberry's warmth still resonates,